Okay, if you've ever had to manage more than one online account for work, you definitely know the feeling. You know, that constant logging in and out, the fear of posting from the wrong profile, it's like a digital tightrope walk. So today, we're going to dig into how to actually master that chaos.
Right, so here's the big question, isn't it? How in the world are you supposed to juggle all those different logins, platforms, and client demands without just completely losing your mind? It's a struggle so many of us know all too well.
So, we're going to follow the story of one social media manager who literally called her situation a nightmare. But you're going to want to stick around because this is the story of how she found a real game-changing solution.
All right, first up, the digital juggler's nightmare. And yeah, that's what she called it. We're talking about the ugly truth, the unfiltered reality of managing, a dozen different online lives all at the same time.
You know, the scale of this problem it's probably bigger than you think. On average, we're talking 8 to 10 different accounts for just one person. That is a ton of passwords and, wow, so much room for error.
And just look at how fast things can spiral. For this freelancer, right, she starts with just 2 clients in 2023. Seems manageable. Then, boom, mid-2024, it's 5 clients. And by early 2025, she's completely drowning in 9+ accounts and just heading straight for burnout. Sure, the growth was great for business, but it was absolutely wrecking her sanity.
I mean, this is the classic expectation versus reality, isn't it? You think, oh, freelance life, it's going to be so easy and organized. But the reality, for her, it was just this whirlwind of tabs, nonstop stress, and that constant nagging fear that you're going to make a huge mistake, like posting to the wrong account.
And all that chaos, it had a real measurable cost. She actually tracked her time and found she lost a staggering 40% of her productivity. Just gone. All that time was just disappearing into the void of logging in, logging out, and constantly switching gears between clients.
And you can just feel the personal toll here. Her exact words were, "Burnout, it knocked on my door daily." I mean, wow, this wasn't just a work problem anymore. It was starting to bleed into every single part of her life.
But then there was a breakthrough. Late one night, just scrolling through Reddit, we've all been there, her search for a solution led her to something that would change everything.
And I love how she put this. She said, "Sendwin entered my life like a caffeinated superhero." What a great line. She'd found this browser tool that basically promised to solve every single one of the problems she was dealing with.
So you're probably wondering, how does this thing even work? Well, the magic behind it is something called browser isolation. And the easiest way to think about it is this. Imagine every single browser tab is its own separate little fortress, its own computer. Each tab gets its own isolated cookies, its own cache, its own storage. So what you do for client A in one tab is completely walled off from what you're doing for client B in another. The result? No more accidental logouts and absolutely no more mix-ups between accounts.
Okay, so let's take a look at the superpowers. These are the features that actually solve the problem.
It really boils down to 4 key things. First, you've got that bulletproof session isolation we just talked about. No more mix-ups. Then there's seamless one-click switching, which is huge for cutting down wasted time. Third, it's got privacy on steroids with proxies for extra security. And finally, and this is a big one, it can scale for unlimited accounts, so you're never going to outgrow it.
And if you need a painful, real-world example of why this is so important, here it is. She told us she once lost a potential client because she accidentally replied to a business DM from her Finsta, her personal private Instagram. Ouch. That is a costly mistake that this new system just makes impossible.
And get this, it also solved another huge headache, trying to securely work with a team. The whole process became super simple. First, you just pick the session you want to share with your team member. Then you generate a secure link, and the key here is it's passwordless. Finally, your collaborator gets the access they need, and you never, ever have to hand over your actual passwords. It's a game changer.
Okay, now for my favorite part. Let's talk about the results. We're moving from the chaos to the calm, and we've got the numbers to prove just how big of a difference this made.
I mean, look at this before and after. It is absolutely staggering. Her daily logins and setup time went from 45 minutes down to just 15. But here's the kicker. The time she spent just switching between accounts and doing admin work, that plummeted from 3 hours a day, down to only 30 minutes. That's a massive shift that made her way more effective.
So when you add it all up, what does that mean? It means she got back 15 hours every single week. That's almost 2 full workdays that she could now use for strategy, for being creative, or,
just to have a life again.
And of course, that extra time meant real business growth. Because she was so much more efficient, she could actually take on more clients without having to hire anyone. The result? A 35% bump in her revenue. That is huge.
But honestly, this might be the most important number on here. She said her daily stress levels dropped by 60%. So yeah, it wasn't just about the money. It was about actually improving her quality of life and finally breaking that awful cycle of burnout.
All right, so let's bring this home. How can you take these lessons and apply them yourself? Because this is about more than just a tool. It's about building a smarter strategy, period.
So based on everything she went through, here are our 4 pro tips for you. First, get really good at content templating. Stop reinventing the wheel every single day. Second, batch your work. Have a creation day. Have a scheduling day. Stop switching back and forth. Third, you've got to be ruthless. Prioritize only the platforms that are actually getting results. And finally, automate all the boring, mundane stuff. That frees you up to be human where it really counts, in that genuine one-on-one engagement.
So that leaves one last question, and it's for you. You just saw how one person completely turned around her workflow, her business, and honestly, her well-being. So are you ready to turn your chaos into calm?